Hello, it is Nick. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. And if you're new here, welcome. Nice to meet you. And it feels like it's been years since I've talked to you on this channel, but it's really only been a little over a week since we last talked. And in that time, we've had an election here in the US. We're technically still in the election. That's a whole other thing I might touch on at a future date. I'll talk about it later in the video. And that's actually part of why I've been a little silent longer than normal on this channel, and a little unusual as of late. I've been posting multiple times a week for a few months now. And so in this video, I kind of want to address where my head is at right now, what I've learned over this past week in particular, and where this channel is heading in the near future. So let's get into that right now, and I would love to have you keep watching. Before we move on, if you want social, political, and cultural commentary throughout every week going forward, then make sure to subscribe to this channel, whether you are watching on YouTube or on Rumble. If you are on YouTube, also ring the notification bell to get notified every time I post. And if you like anything you see, and if you have anything to say, comment and hit the like button, or give this video a rumble by hitting the punching bag on Rumble. So let's get into where I'm at right now. So I'll start with what I've learned over the past week. So the one main thing I've noticed, and that's been since the election really, is that it is better to be right than to be first. And I started really practicing this consciously during my last video about the Hunter Biden scandal, which, looking back at when I filmed that and when it was posted, which is only literally like 7 days ago, it seems like it was ages ago at this point. And looking back, I am so happy that I waited to talk on that subject and that topic. And I'm glad I waited to talk about it, and I'm kind of taking that same approach to hopefully everything I do in the future, which is just taking a beat to kind of just process things. And sometimes, and a lot of times actually, especially with what I'm working on going forward, which I'll touch on in a few seconds, taking that beat has really brought more clarity to what I want to say. And oftentimes taking that beat, maybe even a few hours a day, especially with stories that are really new, a lot of new information comes out very quickly, and it adds a new perspective, maybe a new angle on the topic I want to cover and talk about and give my thoughts on. So I think it's an important skill that I've learned, and that I think should be a foundation to what I do going forward. So there's that. Also, another lesson I've learned this past week is that it is not over until it's over. I put "it ain't over till it's over." That's not how I talk, so I won't say it like that. But which is why I've been hesitant to speculate about the election, because I see through a lot of, because I've been kind of deeply entrenched in the political process for at least the past year and a half for sure, but I've always been interested in it. But I really dove in once I was out on my own and I had kind of more control over what I consume and what I watch. And so I've been seeing through really what the media has been doing for a long time now, but especially this past week, because they seem to be hoping that people are ignorant to what is actually supposed to be going on as far as the electoral election process. And so I know how the electoral process works. Just a brief history, very quick, on my kind of interest in this. In my high school civics class, don't know if I've talked about this on here before, but in my high school civics class, my senior year of high school, I was, I think, the only one who off the top of my head, I'm in California, could basically say who my senators were and who the Speaker of the House was, who the Vice President was. I mean, it was weird. I thought everyone knew these things, and then when my teacher brought up the question and I was able to just raise my hand and say it out loud, I think I was the only one who really knew, and I probably was looked at like I was weird. But now that interest in those topics has really been beneficial to me, especially in times like these, when knowing that has given me a lot of peace and a lot of keeping me centered in a time when if you kind of are following the media narrative, you're probably on the verge of losing your mind or really stressed out. So anyways, I just wanted to say that about the election. But I know that there's a lot of litigation, a lot of weird anomalies happening with the election results that are indicating that this is not over yet. And of course, the electorates get to cast their vote on behalf of us, the people, in December, and then inauguration day is until January 20th. So until January 21st, I think a lot of options, and might even go beyond that. I have a scenario where there's a potential tie, assuming that states get recalled and recalled for whoever's Biden or Trump. And there's a whole process for that. So if you want that, leave a comment if you're curious to hear what that's about or what my thoughts are on that. Make sure you give this video a like too if you want more of election stuff, or you like any of the topics I'm bringing up that I want to talk about in the future. That's a kind of an easy way for me to know that you want that. So with that said, here is where my head is at the moment. So I believe that we need to highlight, boost, raise up, or I don't know what other words to use, boost, highlight, amplify, rational, level-headed, logical, reasonable people, leaders of all positions at all levels in all industries at this point. And the reason I really came to this conclusion, which it's not like this groundbreaking thought, right? But on election night, as the results were coming in, because I was trying to hold off any like emotional attachment until real results were coming in, and it was getting clearer throughout the night, which I'll touch on later about the media, that I was starting to think about the what ifs. I'm like, wow, they're really calling a lot of states for this person, and I thought it would, maybe we wouldn't get results until the next day. It was kind of weird that things were getting called really quickly, and they weren't really making sense the way they were calling them, i.e. Arizona being called before Florida, even though the polls are like 3 hours off and they all count the votes a lot differently. It was really weird. And that Florida had like 90-something% reporting and Arizona barely had any. The polls had just closed and they're calling Arizona before Florida, and it was just like, okay, something's up. And the masks were coming off very quickly from the media, especially Fox News, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But so that was kind of when I started going through scenarios in my head, because I'm not the person who kind of just emotionally reacts. I occasionally do, but I catch myself doing it. I'm aware that it's not my natural state and it's not good for me. So at that point, I start kind of going through all the scenarios in my head, like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this person wins? What if that person wins? What if it's a landslide this way? What if it's a landslide that way? And then immediately, almost, it was like I had like an intervention from above, from God maybe, where I started thinking about what my next steps were and how I was going to kind of contribute to whatever cause I wanted to, whatever the results may be. And I immediately shifted, and I realized, oh, since I see myself as this, as a rational, level-headed, logical, reasonable person, and I've used those traits in any leadership roles I've had, and just in my everyday life, my mindset completely shifted, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to kind of observe what's happening. So I went from the speculatory thing leading up to the election to kind of more observant as the election was unfolding and after, up until now. And so I went from wondering what will happen to kind of laying out all the scenarios and kind of how I can deal with them, or maybe contribute to it not being as bad as it appears it might be for me, or how can I fix it in a way. So I know that's kind of vague, but I will fill in those details as I kind of come up with my answers and what my long-term next steps are, and kind of as they become more and more clear. But anyways, so I realized kind of as clear as day that day was really my role in society moving forward, that I have more of an idea of what it will be, and it's getting clearer and clearer every day. And I've always kind of known an idea of what it might be, but didn't know the specifics. But I think it's becoming clear what the long-term goal is and how I might be able to get there and kind of the steps that could get me to that end goal. So that's kind of why I'm making this video now, explaining my absence for about a week, because it's becoming more clear, and taking that beat, like I said before, was really helpful in me seeking some clarity. So as far as this channel goes, I want to get into kind of what the next steps are here. So I'm working on a few videos that are what I would think of as timely, important, and definitely impactful socially, politically, culturally, which are all the things that I want this channel to be about. So I'm not straying from my recent direction of my content. I just took a beat to be kind of more focused and laser in on what I really want to talk about, what I really want to make. So I want to give before I end this video, I want to give a sneak peek on what to expect going forward in the next few videos from this channel, and then we'll launch from there. So the kind of overall theme is law, lawsuits, and media are kind of the main themes throughout here, which are all things that are very, very timely right now regarding the election, regarding social media, regarding politics, and all the above, and culturally as well. So there's a few lawsuits, a few lawsuits that are happening with social media figures that cross into the culture and also the political side. And these two things are kind of, I think, wake-up calls, especially the first one I'm going to talk about, or briefly talk about right now, regarding more specifically what I'm doing online as far as commentary, commenting on topics, giving my opinion, giving what I think. And that is with Katie Joy from the channel Without a Crystal Ball on YouTube. And this story, I didn't know if I wanted to cover it because it's more entertaining, but I didn't want to like insert myself if I didn't feel like it was necessary. But it has gotten so crazy, and I just can't believe this person, the way they're acting. It just keeps going and going and going. So I wanted to kind of, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to frame it or what part of it I'm going to talk about, but I will be talking about this story because it's just getting crazy and crazier. And today, like literally a few hours ago, it got even more crazy. So that's one. The other is with Candace Owens, and she is a conservative voice online, and she's allegedly, of what I've seen, suing the fact checkers who are fact checking on social media. And so these two lawsuits have these two situations have very large implications for social media, for politics, for free speech, for how people make content, and the roles of platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and all the other things. So that's one thing I want to make sure I talk about. If you're interested in that, let me know which you're more excited about, or if you've heard of either one. Also, the media, their recent this week really, their role this week in completely doing exactly the opposite of what they should be doing as the media, as supposed journalists. I would like to share my thoughts on what's happening and some alternatives to some of the mainstream media, especially the likes of Fox News, because it was clear on election night a ton of their base was pretty mad at them, including me. And I was thinking these things, kind of what I was explaining earlier, and I went on my Parler page, which is another alternative that I'll talk about in the future, and it seemed like it was a pretty large consensus, and their ratings this weekend were a very clear indication that I was not the only one, and it seems like a lot of people are pretty mad at what they have turned into. So that'll be coming forward. And along the same lines of media, kind of related to Candace Owens, but not exactly the same, is Charlie Kirk, who is another conservative influencer online, and he continues to take these missteps that I think are going to be detrimental to his long-term career, and I want to kind of touch on that and maybe share kind of what I think maybe he should do if he happens to come across the video, and kind of what's going on with that. So there's a lot I have planned, and I'm going to get it out as soon as possible in the way I want to. Before I wrap up, if you have not already, if you liked what you heard right now and you're interested in hearing kind of my take on all this stuff from someone who lives in California who's technically registered Republican, that's a whole nother topic I could talk about regarding what's happening with the election and what I think could be happening with President Trump and his loyal fan base what could be happening as far as a move into a new political party, move away from the Republican Party. We'll see what happens. But if you want commentary regarding from me, who's a California conservative Republican, who's part of kind of a cusp between Gen Z and millennial, it's kind of this weird mixture. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, or if you're watching on Rumble. If you're on YouTube, like I said at the beginning of this video, ring the bell to give this video, to get notified when I post new videos. If you liked anything you heard, any of these topics that you might be excited about, give this video a thumbs up to let me know that you're excited, and also comment down below which type of video that I've kind of vaguely touched on here that I'm going to be making soon are you most excited to hear about. So with that said, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by. I cannot wait to see what the future holds, because it is looking bright. Even though it seems crazy right now, I think a lot of things are going to be changing for the better in the long run. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.